for the longest time, the AFC East was ruled by the New England Patriots. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, Richard Seymour, Rob Gronkowski, litany of guys. They ruled the AFC East. But last year, post Tom Brady, with the start of the Cam Newton era, the Patriots aren't the kings of the East anymore. That crown belongs to the Buffalo Bills, and the Bills are my pick to win the AFC East. That's not a hard pick to make. The Bills had a tremendous year last year, went to the AFC Championship game. They are going to just pick up right where they left off. Josh Allen is a guy that I was a big fan of coming out. I didn't say he was going to be worthy of the number one overall pick. I didn't even have a first-round grade on it. But I thought, here's a guy that's got a lot of potential. If he went to the right fit, he was going to have success. He went to the right fit. He went to the perfect fit, I think, with the Buffalo Bills. And we're starting to see that. And he took a huge step last year. I'm anticipating him taking that next step and continuing to what we saw last year. And I still think even taking it up a new level. I mean, having him and Stephon Diggs, not only is Josh Allen developing, but they got him a true number one receiver. A guy like Stephon Diggs who can be an elite deep threat. He can go up and get the ball. I mean, Stephon Diggs can do whatever you want. And Josh Allen took advantage of that and put up some huge numbers with Stephon Diggs last year. And they added more. Emmanuel Sanders. I don't think Emmanuel Sanders is a guy that's a top flight receiver, but he's still a good quality number two and probably the best second receiver that the Bills have had since Josh Allen has been their quarterback. I mean, just think a couple years ago, Josh Allen was throwing to John Brown and Robert Foster. Now he's got Stephon Diggs and Emmanuel Sanders. Dawson Knox is continuing to develop. I think this offense just continues to get better. Allen's locked him up long term. And this offense is I think, going to be one of the better offenses in the AFC. Defensively, we know what they are. With Sean McDermott as their head coach, they're always going to have a good defense. They got good linebacker play. They got good secondaries. Tre'Davious White, I think, is the most underrated cornerback in the league. The guy is a complete stud. The biggest issue for them is, did they have that consistent pass rush? They've got some good guys. Star Latuile's with them. They got Ed Oliver. But I'm fascinated to see how their edge guys are this year, especially with the addition of Gregory Rousseau. And I know they took him at the end of the first round, and some people knocked that pick. They didn't like it. They didn't think that Rousseau was worthy of that pick. But here is a guy who opted out. He sat out this past year for whatever reason. I'm not going to fault him for sitting out. He has his own reasons. They're not mine. But as a redshirt freshman, he had 15 sacks. He led the NCAA in sacks. That you don't just get that playing in the AC just by, falling into those sacks. You don't fall into 15 sacks. And so far this preseason, Rousseau's played well. And I think a lot of people are kind of on the fence on him. He beat up on guards in college at times. And then he goes in the combine, or not the combine, his pro day, and he doesn't put up the best numbers, and everyone's like, oh, all right, a second round pick. He's not worthy of the first. But we're seeing that skill set translate. He was a guy that I never really thought. His tape didn't indicate that he was going to win with speed off the edge. He was a guy that was going to, he was kind of like a technician. He was going to use his length. He's going to use his, he's not a bum of an athlete. But I think his development is going to be key. Last year in the second round, they took A.J. Epinesa, a guy that I really liked out of Iowa. And, you got Epinesa, who they're hoping could develop on one side. You got Gregory Rousseau on the other side. You still got Jerry Hughes. You still got a couple other guys that they've had some success with. And I think the Bills, are you getting better? Are you getting worse? And I think the Bills are getting better. Those additions on the defensive line, the additions at receiver, another year. I didn't even mention their offensive coordinator, Brian Daboll. Here's a guy that I thought was going to get a head coaching job. And I don't know if it's the fact that they went too deep into the playoffs, and a lot of times teams get antsy and I don't want to wait for this coach to get done with the playoffs. We're just going to go out and hire somebody. And now we got Brian Daboll with yet another year of Josh Allen. He's the one that's gotten Allen to really take those big steps. And so I think that's crucial for the Bills to keep Daboll. I think he's going to have another great year with Josh Allen. And the Bills are a true Super Bowl contender. You got the Chiefs and you got the Bills. I think those two teams are the cream of the crop in the AFC. Now, let's talk about New England. As the New England was the king of this division. Last year, they didn't have the best success. They finished third in the division behind the Miami Dolphins. What are they going to be this year? Now, they do get their returnees, their opt-outs. Devontae Hightower opted out. They had a couple guys in the secondary opt out. They had the most opt-outs of starters in the NFL last year. All those guys are back. And then in a typical, not very typical move for the Patriots, they spent heavy in free agency. Okay? They brought in Matt Judon. They brought in Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. And they went out and got Trent Brown. So not only are you getting your opt-outs back, but they're getting some high-level guys in free agency. Now, free agency hasn't always been the best thing for the Patriots. Adalius Thomas was supposed to be this next great pass rusher, and he goes to the Patriots and doesn't have much success. Okay? So it is a little catch-22, and we'll see how they do. I think the thing that if we look at the Patriots, what's going to determine if they're a playoff team or not? They're, to me, on a fringe. I could see them making the playoffs. I could see them missing out. How they finish will depend on a quarterback situation. Cam Newton and Mac Jones. Mac Jones they took with the 15th overall pick. A guy that, some people thought he was going to go third overall. There was a lot of smoke out there, a lot of rumors and innuendo that the 49ers were traded up to take Mac Jones. Well, they didn't. He falls to 15. The Patriots snatch him up. I like Mac Jones in this fit. He, to me, he's not going to be Tom Brady. No one's ever going to be Tom Brady. But he fits that Tom Brady style of offense. Josh McDaniels, that quick dink and dunk. Mac Jones is a guy that's a quick thinker. The ball comes out quick. He could see it get open. We saw that at Alabama. The Patriots, they're going to want to do that this year. Right? Most of their receivers are, the short underneath guys, like they had with the Welkers and the Edelmans and the Troy Browns. But now and then you got the two tight ends. You got the Jonnu Smith and the Hunter Henry. Are they going to look to do some of the same two tight end stuff that they did with Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski? It'll be fascinating what happens at quarterback for the Patriots. Right? Because are they going to run with Cam? Cam had his moments last year, and I think pre him sitting out because of his positive test, he was playing well. And then he had to sit out, he missed a game, and then it just never seemed the same. So what are they going to do? Are they going to roll with Cam and see how it goes, and if he struggles, they're going to put in Mac Jones? Are they going to start with Mac Jones? I wouldn't be shocked. I actually think they're going to use both. I think they're going to use Mac a lot of times between the 20s, and they're going to use Cam Newton, I think, more as a role player, a piece, and that runner. They're going to, Cam struggled with accuracy, and he struggled with accuracy at times this offseason. So you wonder, are they going to find a way to do a two-quarterback system? And if anybody's going to do a two-quarterback system well in the NFL, you have to think it's Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels, those two working together. And, maybe Mac Jones is their guy, dink and dunk, get him down the field, and then when you get to the goal line, then you bring in Cam Newton. You have Cam Newton, you got this plethora of backs, and now that opens up all their possibilities within the red zone. So it'll be fascinating. Like I said, I think how the quarterback situation plays out is how the Patriots season ends up going. Now, last year, the Miami Dolphins were a playoff contender until the kind of season got away from them, and a lot of that was because they wanted to see what they had in Tua Tagovailoa. Things were going well with Ryan Fitzpatrick as their quarterback. Their defense was strong, but they knew that they were going to have that top 5 pick from the Texans, and they wanted to see what do we have in Tua Tagovailoa, And do we have to use that top 5 pick on a quarterback? And I think that's where the wheels kind of fell off, and we all know that they had to keep bringing in Ryan Fitzpatrick to kind of save a few games. And that's why I'm a little hesitant on the Dolphins this year. I still think they're going to have a solid team. I think their defense is going to be good. Getting Xavier Howard's deal kind of worked out and getting him back in the fold is really going to help. And the pieces they've added to that roster, Jalen Phillips from Miami, one of the first-round picks, I'm a big fan of, and I think he's going to give him an edge rushing presence. But this offense wasn't great last year, and that was with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Tua Tagovailoa last year struggled. And here was a guy that was thought to be, people were talking about tanking for Tua, and I know his hip injury came, and he was healthy last year, and I just, myself and a lot of people thought that he would have done better last year. And I know it's easy to say, oh, rookies come in and have that instant success. We forget that sometimes they need some time in developing, and it's not like Miami really had the best weapons around him. That being said, Ryan Fitzpatrick did perform better than Tua in those opportunities that he had. So I like the additions that the Dolphins did. They added a lot of speed to their offense, getting Will Fuller coming over from Houston, drafting Jalen Waddell, who was my number 1 rated receiver in last year's draft. I liked him better than Jamar Chase. Getting those guys will help because now you've got 2, Will Fuller's kind of a one-trick pony, but he's really good at that one trick. And Jalen Waddell, I think, could do everything. So getting those 2, adding that speed to go with Preston Williams and to go with the receiver out of Louisville. I can't think of his name off the top of my head because he hasn't burst out, but that helps. But the running game's a little shaky at this point. Myles Gaskins, you've got, and it's just, I think those limitations and Tua, I don't know if he's going to work out. And there's a lot of things that I really liked. I felt when watching him, he didn't have the biggest arm, but he was able to make up for that with his anticipation and his ability to throw with touch and timing. And I'm starting to wonder with his, not the best athletic ability, with an arm that's maybe not as strong as we maybe would have thought. He's not, he didn't show the willingness to push the ball. He didn't show the willingness to try to attack defenses, and he settled a lot, and it caused them to have some issues, and that's why Ryan Fitzpatrick was brought in. And so if we see a very similar Tua Tagovailoa this year, I think the Dolphins are going to struggle. And I think instead of looking at a team picking in that 15 to 18 range, we're looking at them maybe in that 8 to 12 range. And I think the defense is only going to be so good. The defense is good. Todd Bowles has done it. Brian Flores has done a good job with that defense, but if you have an offense that can't score points and you can't do some of those things to take the pressure off, it's not going to matter. And as we round out the AFC East, it's the New York Jets. The New York Jets, I have really liked their offseason. Bringing in Robert Saleh, bringing in LaFleur as their offensive coordinator. They're trying to go San Francisco East, and I really like what they did. Offensively, obviously they draft Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson wasn't my number 2 rated quarterback in this draft, but I understand the fit. He seemed to fit that Shanahan-style offense very well. You bring him in, and then they draft Elijah Vera Tucker. They trade up to 15 to take him, and now you've got that improved offensive line. You've got Mekhi Becton, who's an absolute stud. A guy that as a rookie played very well, and looks like he's going to be a top offensive tackle. And then you got Elijah Vera Tucker, who is going to move into guard, and I think he's a guy that is going to be a solid above average at a minimum. I think his floor is an above average starting left guard. And you lock down that left side. And they've brought in a lot of pieces that kind of work from center out to right tackle. But you got that blind side locked down. and they added at receiver. That was one of the biggest issues I had with the Jets with Sam Darnold is they drafted Sam Darnold 3rd overall, and then they did nothing to really support him and develop him. They didn't draft offensive line. They didn't draft like, it's like, hey, we got Sam Darnold, we're good on offense, let's do whatever on defense. They didn't add him. His top weapons were like, I can't even tell you who his top weapons were. Robbie Anderson for a little bit. He had Quincy Enunwa for a little bit. Now the Jets, they go out, and Denzel Mims is in his second year, a guy that didn't play a lot last year because of injuries, but flashed. You got Corey Davis, who once again top 5 pick, hasn't lived up to that, but he's a solid quarterback or wide receiver. Then you go out and get Elijah Moore in the second round, a guy that a lot of people raved at, and he's shown out this preseason. That receiving core of Mims, Corey Davis, and Elijah Moore still got a lot to prove, but it's a far better line than weapons than anything we've ever seen with the Jets. Defensively, they go out and add some free agents. Now, Carl Lawson was going to be their Leo weak side defensive end. He was playing well, ends up rupturing his Achilles, is going to be out. So defense, I think, is still going to be a work in progress. And I think the Jets, now I don't think they're going to contend for that number 1 overall pick, because that's probably Houston and Detroit's to go over. But I think they're going to be contending for maybe potentially a top 5 pick. But I think it's one of those situations that the team is building, and you're going to see a lot of progress, and you're going to see a lot of good signs with this offense, with what they're doing on defense. I just don't think they have the pieces, especially on defense, to kind of take them to that next, to kind of continue that development. So like I said, I think they're probably picking somewhere between like 4 and 8. But I think it's going to be a significantly better operation, significantly better team than what we've seen the past several years.